The showdown between Democrats and Attorney General William Barr is at a potential crisis point. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler set a 9 a.m. deadline today for Barr to hand over the full unredacted Mueller report to Congress. That didn't happen. Now Democrats are considering whether to hold the Attorney General in contempt of Congress. This comes as President Trump tweeted Mueller should not testify before lawmakers regarding his Russia investigation. CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Jiang is joining me now from the White House lawn. And so, Weijia, now that the Attorney General has passed this deadline, how are Democrats reacting?
Well, Chairman Nadler has already said that if he missed this deadline, he would move forward with possible contempt charges and other legal actions and sort of threatened Barr and let him know that this is exactly what we want and this is your time frame to give it to us. But as you mentioned, here we are. It's 9 o'clock on the dot right now, and we know that hasn't happened yet. And so we'll have to see if Nadler was just, using that as a tactic, or if he actually follows through and holds Barr in contempt. So he could face some actions moving forward. But, Congress doesn't really have a mechanism in terms of enforcing that. Of course, there are things that they can do. This can play out, but it's not like, he's going to be handcuffed and taken to jail if he's held in contempt of Congress.
Good point, Weijia. We mentioned earlier that the president has changed course on the idea of Robert Mueller testifying before Congress. As you know, the president initially said the Mueller report totally exonerated him. So
right.
He's been totally exonerated, no collusion, no obstruction, because that's what he says the Mueller report, at least he said, the Mueller report did, as did the Attorney General. Why is he objecting to Mueller speaking publicly now?
Well, I think on Friday when he said, I don't know if he should testify, that's up to Attorney General William Barr. It was more of a hypothetical. He knew that Democrats might call him Mueller. But then yesterday on Fox News, a key member of the House Judiciary Committee, Representative David Cicilline, said May 15th is our tentative date. That's just next week for the special counsel's testimony. So I think it became very real that Mueller could be heading to Capitol Hill and could be testifying. And that's when we saw very shortly later a reaction from President Trump tweeting that he does not think Mueller should testify, saying that the Democrats want to redo, that they were unsatisfied with the conclusion of no collusion. And that's partially true. But again, Mueller did not make a conclusion when it comes to obstruction of justice. And that's why Democrats have so many questions, because they want to know why the special counsel wrote that even though this report does not charge the president with a crime, it does not clear him of one either. They also have a lot of questions about Mueller having frustration over the way Barr characterized his report. Mueller said that there was no context and that it caused public confusion. So, of course, now lawmakers want to hear directly from Mueller even more than ever because they want to know why he was frustrated, what was wrong with Barr's characterization, and I'm sure they have a lot of questions about obstruction.
Here's another question, Weijia. President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone on Friday, as you know. Margaret Brennan asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo about this call on Face the Nation, and she asked him why the president did not bring up Russian meddling. I want to play his response.
The president's been very clear. The administration has taken great action. I wish the previous one had stopped the election interference that took place in 2016. They failed to do so. Between 2017, when President Trump came into office, and 2018, we had a successful election year, a set of midterm elections. We're working diligently to ensure that the elections in 2020 aren't interfered with by Russia, by Iran, by North Korea, or anyone else. We have enormous resource deployed against that challenge, and the American people should be sure that their government is working hard to keep our elections safe and secure.
All right, so Weijia, even if the Secretary of State is making a point about the previous administration being unable to prevent the Russians from meddling in the 2016 election, the fact that the President of the United States has not brought this up to the Russian President Vladimir Putin, given that we have a 2020 election coming up, what are you hearing from your sources about that, and whether or not the President will eventually talk to Vladimir Putin about interfering in our elections and to basically tell him not to do it?
The official messaging is exactly what we just heard from the secretary. The White House is saying the same thing, which is, look, President Trump doesn't have to bring that up with Putin because he's made it so clear to everybody that the U.S. will not stand for this sort of meddling. The problem is he has not made it clear to Putin, and this is another example of him not using an opportunity with him on the phone or face-to-face to say, we aren't going to tolerate this, because you're right. It doesn't matter what administration is over this action. When it happens, this is about the integrity of our voting system here, and whether or not this happened in 2016 under Obama or now, you would think that the president would send a clear message, and there are so many questions mounting now about why he didn't. So even though they're saying there's no need to, everybody knows that, the president isn't going to stand for this. Again, he missed this opportunity and instead talked for over an hour, it seems, about everything but this. So if you take out the no collusion part, if you take out the no obstruction part, the Mueller report still lays out, quote, a sweeping and systematic way the Russians interfered in order to help Donald Trump win. And so he's going to have to face a lot of questions about why he did not tell Putin that. Of course, we've heard him before saying, it's better to get along with our adversaries rather than have conflict with them. And so I'm sure we'll hear that again. But the president here thinks he hasn't done anything wrong because he believes he's already done his part. You may not know this because there hasn't been a White House press briefing in I don't know how many days, an official one at least. But I just want to get from you, perhaps we will find out today, what the president meant by his tweet over the weekend regarding the Kentucky Derby when he tweeted, one of these days, only in these days of political correctness could an overturn occur. What was the president talking about with what happened at the Kentucky Derby? Do you know? No.
Okay. That's what
Sure,
I thought.
I don't.
Because,
and I do not want to guess. Anytime someone says, "What was the president thinking?"
Right.
Or "What did he mean by that tweet?" We really don't know, and you could, take a guess. But I think it is peculiar that he injects himself into these issues without much explanation. But it's there, and we're all reading it.
It is
so
there.
We'll ask him.
All right. Look forward to that. Weijia Jiang at the White House for us. Thank you, Weijia.
Thanks, Vlad.